Hello, it is Fiona coming to you today with Spooky You number 90 power outages. What do you do during power outages? Well, that's a good topic because we had one heck of a power outage here in Montreal, Quebec, and parts of Ontario, and I think also parts of New York or the United States, where Quebec supplies some uh, electricity. And it was 1998, and it was the middle of winter. It was January 9th, 7th, January 9th or 11th, around that. And it was a freezing cold day, and it had been mild raining, which is odd for January. And I noticed all the wires, all the electric wires outside had lots of ice on them. And then all of a sudden, the power went off. And it didn't come back on for 3 months in some places. Now, my power went off for 2 weeks, and my parents' power went off for 3 days. Now, I phoned my parents when the power went off and it started getting cold in my place, and I said, my power has gone off. Oh, they said, come here, we've got power here. So I went there, stayed in the spare room, and 3 days later, their power went off. Was it 3 days later? No. 2 weeks. 2 weeks? 1 week? Something like that. A week and a half. Week and a half later, their power went off. And it didn't come back on. So we went up. It had been being covered very highly on the publicly on the news, channel on TV, and they were saying, if your power goes out, go to your shelter. So me and my mother and my father and me got in my father's car and drove up to the shelter. It was in a college. And it had facilities, shower facilities, cooking, dining room facilities, and a gymnasium. And they said, bring your blankets and pillow and wear loose clothes, comfortable clothing, jumpsuits or something. So that's what we did. Now, we stayed in there 3 days and 3 nights. And you were very well treated. The showers were modern and working in warm, hot water. And you were fed 3 times a day. Breakfast, lunch, and supper. Breakfast was muffins or toast and things like that. Lunch was lunch, I can't remember, sandwich or things like that, and fruit. And supper was ordinary supper, I don't know, I forget. Hot supper, mashed potatoes, stuff like that. Now, I had asked them when we went in, do you have bacon and eggs? We were hungry. Oh, no, they said, if the power goes on, we'll have bacon and eggs, but the breakfast is muffins ordinary muffins. So we said, that's okay. So we went in, registered, and there was, all around the rooms, people in the rooms, groups, older people. One man had to be taken off, older man had to be carried off to the hospital in the ambulance. He was not doing too well, he was older. And you were just all sleeping all on the floor in the gymnasium with your blanket and your pillow. Oh, it was awful. No privacy. Right beside, a few feet away, there was a couple. Came one night with a little baby. The little baby was quiet, and the mother and father sitting there with the baby. And then they went off, and another couple came and stayed. And oh my God! And so I got a cut in there. I don't know how, but my finger had been cut here. So when I came out, I got my father to drive me to the hospital because I wasn't doing so good. I wasn't sleeping. I was all upset from the hospital because it was, my mother needed help at night a little bit to go to bed, and I was going out every day with my father or every other day to feed my cat in the apartment, change her water, and wrap her in a blanket and keep her warm for a while. And also, so I went to see the doctor, the hospital. Poor them, they probably had no power either. My uncle was a nurse working the Jewish General, and he had to work through the power outage. And I don't know how he did it. Anyways, he worked at the hospital through the power outage. What did he do? Did he go? He went home. I guess he stayed there. And then he developed some asthma, and they told him, oh, check into the hospital. You're not doing too good. No, he said, I'm all right. And then he went home, and his power came back on. And so we went, when the power came back on at my parents', we went back there. And what am I at? We went back there, and it was all right. I went home, and I went to the, and so when my power came on, I phoned every day the janitor or someone to see if the power had come back on. And the woman said, the power is on, but you have to phone Hydro in the morning, 8 in the morning, and ask them to turn it back on in the building. So I did. 8 in the morning, I phoned Hydro, and they turned it on. I went back to my apartment with my cat. My poor cat was so happy the power was back on. Poor thing was freezing all the time. And that's my power outage story. But if it's in the summer, if the power outage is in the summer, I don't mind it. I like it because I can dine and bathe by candlelight. It's kind of fun, It's very relaxing. Candlelight everywhere you go. So that's my power outage story. Thank you. Bye.